Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the NFL podcast Laces Out. We've got special guests galore today, a podcast host, and the biggest, friendliest giant there is. If you're checking us out on YouTube, big thank you to you. But no matter where you're getting your podcasts, whether it's YouTube, SoundCloud or iTunes, do subscribe. If you're already subscribing, tell a friend to do the same, because it means a lot to us and it's a big help to the channel. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the Laces Out podcast.
Recording in progress.
There you go, you see, recording in progress. And apparently, everything I'm seeing here tells me that lady, she is right. At time of recording, she is right. A few YouTube watchers out there, yes, I am in a panic room right now. I'm not in my usual location, because my usual location is in redevelopment phase, ready for the new podcast studio that the millions of pounds taken out of this podcast has allowed me to have handcrafted by gnomes. So, getting that out of the way, for the YouTube watchers, you'll see beautiful, lovely faces. But for audio listeners, we'll take the register for the teachers amongst you. I'm here, the host with some. My more than glamorous co-host, Mr. Paul Williams, is here.
Guten Tag.
The host of the Pursuit of Happiness podcast is here, Mr. Matthew Moore.
Hello, everybody.
And the biggest, friendliest giant of them all, the JFG, James Forrester Gray, is also here. Hello to you, sir.
Yes, sir.
So there we go. All present and correct. But if you couldn't work it out from the title, we're here to talk NFL football. 4 Englishmen talking American football. What could possibly go wrong? So, this is the bit where I need a host, because every now and then with my wrong brain, I forget where we're supposed to go first. Obviously, we're going to look at last week's games, see who picked and who flopped. We're going to look at the stats, and so that everybody doesn't have to listen to me prattle on for like 14 stats. I've shared the wealth between everybody here. We'll talk next week's games. We'll talk about whether it's okay to have a second season-long pick, and we'll see if anybody's got anything else to talk about. Maybe even some fantasy football, which is actually what brings us here today. But first, Paul.
Well, Andrew, yeah, it's been a fair couple of weeks, as our last guest, who wasn't a returning guest, was Mr. Robert Rafton, and he was technically the last person to give his Super Bowl team's winner MVP prediction and his league MVP prediction. So obviously, Mr. JFG is joining us this week for the first time this season. Therefore, it is now his chance to give us his educated selections as to what he believes this year's Super Bowl may well be. So, James, sir, it's over to you.
Well, that's a pretty tough one. So, I was only expecting to do a Super Bowl, an overall winner, and I've kind of got it down to 2. So, I guess we can probably put those into the AFC and NFC winners. From the AFC, I've got to go for the Bills. And, well, got to go for the homer pick as well, especially after a 5-0 start. So, Arizona Cardinals. And what the hell? All in. I'll put a shiny 20 pence piece on the Arizona Cardinals, exceeding expectations by several orders of magnitude.
So, for those watching on YouTube, you may be able to put 2 and 2 together there. As James said, he's got his homer pick, and he is wearing the jersey of, I believe, the finest wide receiver in Cardinals history. The as yet unretired Larry Fitzgerald, but no longer on the team.
Ambiguous.
Yeah. Is he officially still with the team? Or is he...
I don't think he is. I don't even know if the management know if he's with the team. If I'm honest. I feel they've got 3 months. I think they're running a...
Yeah, there's
just 2-man squad just in case.
Up all around the sort of the room and around the training facility. Has anyone seen this man? So we've got a Cardinals-Bills Super Bowl with the Cardinals pulling off the win. Who would be your pick to be the Super Bowl MVP there, or do I even need to ask?
I think we can probably guess. Yeah. Obviously, foregoing a comeback of Larry Fitzgerald in the playoff run, there's got to be little baby Yoda. Wee Kyler Murray.
Wee Kyler.
Yeah.
The man with the quickest feet in the entire league. He's just there, dancing away.
Basically, it's either Super Bowl or Dancing with the Stars champion for the year.
Lovely. So that is James's Super Bowl pick. As for the regular season, who was your pick for the league MVP? And may I suggest we may have already mentioned his name within the last 30 seconds?
I think it might still be Kyler, if I'm honest with you.
So, as we've discussed with all previous weeks, for the predictions, as of yet, no one has picked the same Super Bowl, and no one has picked the same league MVP. So we're all... So potentially someone's going to be correct, or we're all going to be massively wrong. Tune in
at this point, surely.
Tune in at week 19 through 23. I think that's right. To see just how wrong/right we are. That is the season-long picks done and dusted, Mr. Cook.
Fantastic. I love it. I'm not I'm not trying to suck up to anybody here, but I at this point in the season I absolutely love that pick. Bills Cardinals right now. Yes, please.
Not many 5-0 teams haven't made a decent dent on the playoffs.
Oof. That is a Super Bowl I would be lining up to watch. So, we've got some stats to go through, but maybe we should look at how last week's guest fared against not one, but 2 hosts in the week-on-week picks. So the way we do things is the guest, whoever that guest might be, takes on myself and Paul to see who can end up winning the season for picks for the week. The guest gets a collective pick. So, for example, perfect example being today's podcast, the guest will be represented by not 1 but 2 picks. So twice the possibility of getting a point for the guest. But me and my glamorous co-host are fairly confident we can take down any guest that comes on the podcast in the predictions. This is where Paul is about to prove me hella wrong.
Well, it was certainly the case last week, as the guest from 2 weeks ago was Mr. Stuart Woodmansey, who did pull out a win and therefore the first point of the season for the guest. Last week's guest was neither seen nor heard, technically, as it was a situation where we didn't have a guest. So, as was the case for last season, I asked the always knowledgeable Amy Brinton to give up some week 5 picks, to which she gleefully picked against the Washington football team, as she believes it's the most nonsense-based team in the entire NFL. So if I was to ever check with her whether she wants the Washington football team in a bet, she will always pick the other team, even if they're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, for example. So, last week's pick by the guest, the aforementioned Amy Brinton, she was in 3rd place overall, sadly. However, she did get 9 out of 16 picks correct. So well played.
Fantastic. Well done. Well done.
Good form. Good form, old girl. So, sadly, the guest won't be getting any more points for this week. Are you all having a look at me as because I said the word old girl?
Oh yeah.
All right. When she is it back, she'll tell me a new one. It's fine. Well, so the guest sadly can't add to their point from the week before. Therefore, it's up to myself and the host for who will take the win this week. So, in 2nd place with 10 out of 16 picks correct, he's pointing at himself, ladies and gentlemen. It is Andrew Cook, which of course leaves only one man to take up the point for the week, and it is indeed myself, with 12 out of 16 picks correct, getting back to my week 1 through 3 average of 12 out of 16 picks. It's another point on the board for Mr. Paul Williams. Yes, the crowd does indeed go mild. So that puts us to overall standings of 3.5 points for myself, 1 point for the guest, and half a point for Mr. Cook. Let's see what week 6 brings, shall we?
At this point in time, there is a clear gap in points here. So I feel that I should team up with the guests and really give it what for. I feel personally that I have offered up some good picks this week, and I'm sure the other 2 gentlemen here have given good runs for the money. So let's talk some statage. I've cast my eye over the stats. There are, if it's not in the stats, there are a couple of things I wanted to bring up from the week. Something that I heard earlier in the week, which sent chills up my spine, and I imagine it is in the stats, but we're gonna have to talk New York Jets football because I mean, can they put a team on the field this week? Or let's find out. Okay, these are NFL stats for Week 5 of the 2021 season. I'm going to go first with a few stats, and then I'm going to hand over to, I believe it's Mr. Moore. So let's get cracking. Number 1, under new coach Urban Meyer, the Jacksonville Jaguars were blasted 37-19 by the Tennessee Titans, dropping the Jags to 0-5 and running the franchise's losing streak to 20 games. The Jaguars are terrible. The Jaguars and the Jets should form one team. I'm just putting it out there. Just throwing caution to the wind.
And
What
still,
do they have as their collective name? The Jagettes.
The
Jaguars.
The Jaguars. There you go. Lovely.
The bloody old.
Well, yeah, they're that bad that old Urban went to take in some other forms of entertainment of kind of physical prowess on the, I think either on the way back from the game or maybe just before it. So even he can't stand to watch it.
I mean, if you ever want a meme generator, right there, Jesus.
If there's one person who's happy about all the awful shit that came out about Gruden today,
He's like, yay! A day the news isn't about me. Silly man. Number
Also,
two. One for Matt here. The Los Angeles Chargers 47-42 victory over the Cleveland Browns is the early front-runner for Game of the Year. The matchup featured more than 1,000 yards of offense, nearly 90 total points, and 7 lead changes. It may have also vaulted Bolts quarterback Justin Herbert 398 yards, 4 touchdowns passing, plus a rushing touchdown onto the short list of MVP candidates. Right game there. Number 3, Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott is also in the thick of the MVP chase after lofting at least 3 touchdown passes for the 4th time this season in Sunday's 44-20 defeat of the New York Giants. And the last one for me. Josh Allen was the MVP runner-up to Aaron Rodgers in 2020, but got off to a relatively slow start this season. That appears to be behind him now. The Bills star throwing for 315 yards and 3 touchdowns while rushing for 59 and another score in Sunday night's 38-20 statement win over the Kansas City Chiefs. I've already had a conversation this week about there's clearly something wrong in Kansas City. I don't know what. I would always lean towards probably the defense, but there is something seriously wrong with that team at the moment.
people have shut down like the first and second options, so and they're that next level down in terms of the offense just isn't there.
I saw they were trying a bit of monkey business at one point, but it is not looking good for the Chiefs. The conversation I was having earlier.
If you got down Tyreek, if you got down Tyreek and Kelsey, you got Watkins and Hardman.
Yeah. I was saying, can you imagine if for some reason that's the team that ends up going to the Super Bowl this year? It'd be.
It'll still happen.
And that's the thing. Matt.
It's when your quarterback's so good that you kind of thing, and he seems to be making silly mistakes as well. Was it 4 turnovers, which is not that's not going to win you games, particularly against the Bills, who, I mean, Chris Collinsworth has jumped fully on the Josh Allen bandwagon because he was getting very excited about him in the commentary. So if the season ends today, it doesn't, Mr. Forrester Gray. There's still undefeated Arizona Cardinals 5-0, and the Chargers would be 4-1, would be number 1 playoff seeds in the NFC and AFC respectively. That's probably a surprise, really, from the start of the season. I don't think many people would have those two teams. They probably thought they were a season away from being where they're at.
They're both mid on the predictions, weren't they? Probably 15, 16.
I think we just thought kind of young quarterbacks and seeing where they're at. Titans running back Derrick Henry is once again circling on the periphery of the MVP conversation as well. After a 130-yard, 3-touchdown effort at Jacksonville, he remains in position to secure a 3rd consecutive rushing title and is on pace to rush for nearly 2,200 yards, which would eclipse Eric Dickerson's 37-year record, 2,105. Henry's 7 running touchdowns is also set in the face in the NFL. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And then the last one from me. Does anybody actually want to win this game? It was the only question preceding the Green Bay Packers' eventual 25-22 overtime triumph over the Bengals in Cincinnati. Cincinnati, which Mason Crosby finally ended with a 49-yard field goal with 1 minute 55 remaining in not so sudden death. Prior to Crosby's combined winner, the teams had combined for 5 missed field goals and an interception on the 6 preceding drives. Crosby misfiring thrice on the heels of his team record 27 consecutive converted field goals. Rodgers was confident Crosby, one of his closest friends, would come through. That game was bizarre.
It was just crazy, wasn't it? Obviously, like I'm assuming most of us were following it on Red Zone, and they just kept cutting back, just going, "You're not going to believe it, lads! It's happened again." So that's ridiculous.
They were making such a big deal earlier in the game about like I say, the franchise record and all that.
The classic commentator's curse, isn't it? It's like, oh, he's made 30 straight or whatever. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's after Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase played so well as well, which was, just insane.
That was a level-up game for Jamar, wasn't it?
Yeah. James, I believe you also have some stats for us.
I might have a couple up this sleeve. Okay, so Bengals rookie kicker. Well, often we talk about kickers twice in a row, but here we are. Evan McPherson was similarly confident and celebrated accordingly that he'd won the game with a 49-yard shot on the previous drive. So, next up, the Detroit Lions were confident that they were on their way to victory after scoring a touchdown and converting a gutsy 2-point play to take a 17-16 lead at Minnesota with a mere 37 seconds to go. 37 seconds before Greg Joseph hit a career-long 54-yard field goal. And as a result, the Lions remained the NFC's only winless team. Perfect record, just the wrong direction. And finally, kudos to the Bears rookie Justin Fields, who, frankly, bless him, he needed a bit of a pick-me-up after the week before, where he was absolutely ruined. But he put him in the win column in 2 of his 3 starts now. So Fields has hardly been the highlight machine, but he was he's displayed some toughness in limited mistakes, and through his first touchdown pass, do you reckon they get like a little cup or a little trophy for that? He threw his first touchdown pass Sunday, and the Bears 3-2 currently hold the NFC's second wildcard slot, which I'm not sure many would predict it, and I'm not sure many would expect to stay that way. Go Bears, very, very briefly.
It falls to me then, gents, to just round out this week's stats. So, a week after Saints running back Alvin Kamara was not targeted in the passing game, New Orleans quarterback Jameis Winston threw to him a season-high 8 times. Kamara caught 5 of those 8 targets for 51 yards, plus a 19-yard touchdown in a 33-22 win at Amy Brinton's favourite team, Washington. On Thursday, the Seattle Seahawks' Russell Wilson made his 149th consecutive start since being drafted in 2012. The longest streak to start a quarterback's career, with the exception of Peyton Manning, 208 starts. That will end in week 6 following Wilson's finger surgery. I believe he's expected to miss at least 4 weeks.
So it's at least a month, but they're also saying it could be 6 to 8 weeks. So here's the thing that sent chills down my spine. I heard a thing where they're like, the Seahawks might look to the free trade market and look at picking up a veteran to fill that time. And I was like, I wonder who's like not playing for a team at the moment, who's like a free agent that they could pick up, like a veteran that they could pick up just like that. And I went, do not even think about putting Cam fucking Newton on the fucking Seahawks. If you do, I'm coming over there and I'm burning that franchise to the fucking ground.
It would, of course, if it happens, it would be typical that it's a team that you have a little bit of a soft spot for. I think it's easy to say. It's almost as if they've just thought, well, Cam needs to get back in the league, and what better place to do it than a team that Andy really liked?
I will absolutely turn over my badge and gun if that happens.
Oh dear. Poor old Cam.
No.
Well, continuing on the stats thing, if I can unlock my phone. The Steelers, 2-3, remain in last place in the the AFC North, but got a much-needed win over the Denver Broncos that suggested reports of quarterback Ben Roethlisberger's demise might have been slightly premature. Big Ben had multiple touchdown passes for the first time this season in Pittsburgh's 27-19 victory. And rounding out the week nicely, we've got a feel for a crippled Giants team that lost quarterback Daniel Jones, concussion, and running back Saquon Barkley, ankle, to injuries. I believe they also lost Kenny Golladay during the game.
Yeah, so in the space of 10 minutes, they lost 3 players to injury.
Arguably, they're the best starting place in all their skill position, basically.
I think Kadarius Toney got himself chucked out at the end as well, just to join the party.
Somebody.
Actually, someone with a helmet on.
Big Blue could be dead by the Week 10 bye, given they'll have to face the Rams, Panthers, Chiefs, and Raiders before reaching that pause. A moment of silence, please, for the New York Giants season. Thus concludes this week's even stats.
Can we have a moment of silence from one of my fantasy teams where I needed 25 points from Saquon and Daniel Jones to win?
We could also have a moment of silence for the stats mistress, not one, but 2 fantasy teams, where at one point she was showing 97% chance of winning. Woke up the next day to have been beaten by 2 points because her opponent had Mark Andrews.
Greatest wrestler in history.
And had a similar situation in her other fantasy, her other fantasy team, where she absolutely was nailed on for a win, and it did not come off.
Has one as well.
Now,
we kind of spoken about this in the football podcast in the past, about it in the other football podcast about being a therapy session. I also need to attend that kind of therapy session because I went into one of my fantasy matches nearly 80 points ahead, and the person I was going against jokes about, I need 40 points for my QB and with tight end, and then they proceeded to get said 80 odd points, and I lost by 6 fucking points. So, my love for Mark Andrews, due to his namesake, is already known, but I am on the verge of genuinely hating the guy now. You kind of took yourself up in bed and you think, 2 lovely little fantasy wins this week. We'll put the other one to one side. That's a never mind. And then you wake up in the morning and your little notifications are all there, and you're like, well, that just fucking sucked, didn't it? And then, due to the app that we use for said fancy thing, they give you a weekly breakdown of it as well to tell you how well you did, but you still fucking lost, didn't you? So screw you, sleeper.
Oh, were you manager of the week as well?
No, Gordon got that because the person who beat me got it. I was second.
Now then, gentlemen, due to technical, I don't know what you call it, restraints, we are going to have to take a very short break. Now, the thing for the listener stroke viewer is it will be a mere moment, and for us it will only be a couple of minutes, but we will be right back after this.
These short messages?
Yes, these short messages. Very short messages.
Holding out for the sponsorship, eh?
Recording in progress.
For the second time today, the lady, she speak the truth. as he casts his eye across to make sure that we are recording for the lovely podcast listeners. There's blue lines that I can only presume that we are. So, we've done last week. Last week, the book is closed because not only did we do last week, we also did the stats. Beautiful, lovely stats from everybody involved. Thank you, gentlemen. So, do we get the fantasy stuff out of the way? My fantasy season is officially over. I've decided to bin my teams off. I'm going to drop all of my players to the waiver wire, and I'm going to continue having the success that I've had already this season. But enough about me. Hands up if you had a win this week. No. There you
You're
go.
not allowed on the podcast, man.
That's there.
We've already discussed how I lost brutally elsewhere. So give me this one.
Yeah.
I think you were on that one.
My fantasy team is apparently trying to break the record for the lowest score in a week. I think I'm on track. I think I can do it. Another good couple of ad drops, and I'll be all over it.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure 1 year when Benji was doing it, I'm pretty sure he posted like a 19 or something like that.
So that was the year he was actually playing.
Was this the Garoppolo round, first round pick?
Yeah, this is the Garoppolo first overall pick, the Jacksonville Jags defense second
pick. It was a thing of beauty. Now, as I hope at this point in time he knows, Benji, we love you dearly, but that was some of the greatest drafting any of us have ever seen. It was beautiful.
My worst year was second year of playing fantasy, where I tried to get clever and looked at all the rookies that might be good and drafted all of them. So I ended up with Treadwell in the second round.
I mean, it's
a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I can see a reason for it, because somewhere in there has to be a rookie that's going to do well. I think
the same year I had McCaffrey that year. So
see,
that was brilliant.
I tried to convince the stats mistress to team up with me, and I would take an entire bench of running backs, and she could take an entire bench of wide receivers, and then we could go, once the draft had finished, we could then go to everybody and be like, I don't want you top quarterback, but I want you backup. And just basically try and make a Moneyball team out of owning all of the running back prospects and all of the wide receivers.
Sounds a lot like collusion.
It was, apart from the fact that the stats mistress was having absolutely none of it. She's like, no. I'm like, come on.
The thin line between order and chaos in this league.
Come on, let's do it. She's like, no.
I think FanDuel do a bad quarterbacks league that you can enter.
I think I'm in that. I think I'm in that. My team's definitely in that.
Surely that means, is it not a situation where everyone just has to play Kirk Cousins?
Hey.
I mean,
I'll have nothing said about my QB1.
Carson. Sam Darnold's also thrown his hat into the ring on that one as well. He's reverted back to tight. Teddy Tiny Hands is also kind of he's had his ring bell rung a little bit, and he's
they're all much of a muchness, and they all stand number 2 on the pedestal to the Iron Phallus himself, Mr. Joe Flacid. Everybody, he is the king of the shit quarterbacks. So.
I think Drew Lock would like to challenge for that title.
Oh, Drew Lock.
Having lost his starting job to Joe Flacco at one point.
Got a friend who's a Broncos fan, and when Teddy Bridgewater went down injured in the other game the week before, and then Drew came in relief, I was like, you just posting the loss now, or shall we wait till the end?
But it was the fact that Teddy B was like, send me back in, coach, I'm good. Don't leave me on the field. Send me back in.
His
Him on
coach is
one
like-
leg is better than the other option.
Stick me with all the needles and send me back in.
John Shinner, Von like Donkey Kong. He's a Broncos fan as well. He really, at one point, believed in Drew Lock as the future.
I think we've all been there. You know, if any of us have dabbled in
Please
being
move on.
a Broncos fan, we were like, Drew Lock, franchise quarterback. Let's do this. I think in training camp that season, it was like, hang on a minute, something's afoot at Circle K.
What's their penchant for a tall quarterback that likes to sling it is definitely, Brock Osweiler. Anybody? What's it? Whoever the GM. Who was the GM? It's gone out of my head now. Their old GM, the quarterback.
John Elway.
John Elway, that's it. He's made some terrible quarterback picks. I think they're both his.
Well, I think they've all been his since Payton, haven't they?
Yeah. Obviously, Tebow, Peyton, Osweiler.
Jay
Love.
Cutler for a while.
Jay Cutler was one.
It's not been stellar, let's be honest.
The problem is, like, you look at it and you kind of criticise kind of quarterbacks, and then you look at like so many teams, and dear God, the fact that the Browns are like, Baker, and you're like, really, Baker? Are you sure about that one? And then you look at who they've had.
Solid.
But you look back at what they've had before, and you're like, all right, yeah, fair enough, Baker. It's like kind of, when you've kind of dated a series of people who like treat you like absolute crap, and they, she only cheated on me like once a week, once a month, kind of thing.
I'm just happy we haven't got Rosen anymore. He seems like such a nice chap as well, though. Like, genuinely seems like a good guy. Just
Where's
not
he?
there.
Is he
He's in Miami now.
I didn't even think he was still there anymore. I thought he was. Didn't he get released by
To
Miami?
move on.
Then
You may be right there.
I think he got picked up by the Patriots, let go by the Patriots. He might just. I don't even know if he's just a free agent. He might be back at the Dolphins for all I know. But yeah, he's.
Apparently he's a Falcon.
Wow. Wow.
So following his release from... he was in the 49ers for a little while.
Oh my word!
Been around the block a few times then.
Is he going for the Fitzmagic record that he wants to pick up every team in the NFL?
Yeah, except that Magic played for them.
Yeah, that is a good point, actually.
Actually had a game.
So, let's talk this week. Let's talk what games are coming on. And let's talk about our first bye of the season.
Indeed. Well, speaking of the byes, let's go through the teams that are on bye. So one of the teams that is on bye this week is the Jets, after their travels over the pond to play the Falcons, who are also on bye this week. They are joined by the San Francisco 49ers and the New Orleans Saints. That's bad for me, as in fantasy, in both leagues I've managed to draft the exact same 3 running backs, which is interesting. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, injured reserve. Alvin Kamara, bye. So I've basically got DeAndre Swift as my starting running back and someone.
DeAndre could be worse than DeAndre.
So that's going to be fun. But yeah, so you got Jets, Falcons, 49ers and Saints on byes. And we open the week with a second helping of Thursday night Buccaneers football for the season. So the Buccaneers travel to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. Now, as alluded to at the beginning of the episode, myself, Mr. Cook and Mr. Moore have all submitted a week's picks. So we're going to go through each game. James will give us his pick, and we'll basically see whether we're all in agreement or whether we've got some differences on there. And then we'll see next week who picks up the win. So James, who do you fancy the Bucs-Eagles game, or do I even need to ask?
I mean, obviously, there's always a chance with Justin Fields to do. What's his face?
Jalen Hurts.
Hurts, even to do something crazy, but Bucks.
Yeah, no shocks. We've all gone for the Bucks. We move on to the second of the two England or international fixtures for this season, where we have the Miami Dolphins taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Who are you liking in this one, James?
Does that count as a home or away game for Jays? Because they kind of made Wembley their unofficial home, haven't they? So.
Is it? I mean, are we just classing it as 0-21, or I don't even know.
Even without Tua, Dolphins are going to get that one.
You'd imagine so, wouldn't you? And surprisingly enough, we have all gone for the Dolphins to pick up the win.
I wish they'd stop trying to make the Jags a thing.
The London Jaguars?
They've got to stop sucking before the people start thinking about kind of taking them on as the team. The London games, they stink. This year, Christ Almighty, Jets and Falcons. I mean, Dolphins, fair enough, should have been all right, but the Jags, we knew they were going to suck. So it's been 2 games of just.
So what was it? So of the 4 teams that were coming over, as at the time of the week 5 games, they had a combined record of 3-6, 3-11. No, I can't do the maths. I've got 3-13, which is
significant losing margins.
Just horrendous. I mean, when you've got 2 teams who are playing against each other, which are with a 1-3 record, you know that no one's going to be interested. And I mean, you could tell from watching the feed. It was like, and they were like, it always does my head in when they sort of say, "Oh, raucous crowd as always in the UK." It's like, no.
They're just singing rude chants at people.
No one really cares. People go because obviously it's the novelty of the NFL being over here, but the atmosphere is never that good because all 32 teams are represented in the fan base. So if they brought over a team that has a large fan base in the UK, like such as, I don't know, the Packers, the Patriots maybe, you might get a little bit more of a what is Andrew about? Oh, I was just trying to work out what he was doing there. I didn't even see the fact that, there he is. Look at this guy. Look at this little bonus guest for the podcast. Right,
I think it was just his picks, certainly.
If you're not a YouTube subscriber, you're missing out because look at this gorgeous boy that's just appeared on the camera.
Parley boy. Parley for a couple of days.
We're getting distracted, gents. We're getting distracted. The London games suck. Let's be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. Right, moving on. We drift back across the pond for the start of the 6 p.m. games, and we'll start in Washington with the aforementioned Amy Britton's favourite team, and they're going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, going into Landover, Maryland. James, do I need to ask?
Slightly controversial on this one, and possibly upsetting Amy, who I've yet to meet, but I'm going to go Washington.
Wow. Bold call.
Probably stupid, but if it comes off, it'll be
I
gold.
just want to say, before I rate in the book, are you absolutely certain that you want me to put down the Washington football team?
Why the devil not?
Well,
as we say, there's something is rotten in the state of Kansas.
I've heard of playing for points, but that is bold. Anyway, we move on. Next up we have the LA Rams at the New York Giants.
No question about that. As we said, the Giants got a team.
Let's be honest. Even with a full strength Giants team, they're not putting a lot on the Rams, are they?
Best team.
We have the rejuvenated Houston Texans with a quarterback who does apparently know how to throw it to his own teammates, going up against the Indianapolis Colts, coming off what can only be described as a bit of a heartbreaking loss against the Baltimore Ravens from the Monday Night Football.
I flip backwards and forwards on this as the kind of bit of an upset one, but I think the Colts are going to edge it. I think the Texans are going to do enough not to shame themselves.
Not to embarrass themselves, exactly, yeah. But surprise, surprise, we've all gone with the Colts. The Texans didn't look bad against the Patriots, but obviously couldn't hold on to get the win at the end of the game. Right up, we have the Bengals travelling to Detroit to take on the Lions.
I think the Bengals are going to get that one.
Again,
they've got enough weapons to get the Lions guessing. The Lions are done something, but not enough.
It's another consensus pick across the board. We've all got the Bengals. I think the Lions are just, at some point, surely they have to get lucky, as opposed to losing with a last-second kick.
This one, along with the Texans-Colts one, was the one that I sat and had more of a think about, because I was like, God, they've been so close twice. And like you listen to, you kind of obviously, what is it Dan Campbell, the coach, like he's like crying at the ankle biter is he's crying at the podium, and like I'm thinking they're like, oh, Jesus, come on mate, get over it, and they're like, oh no, the players will love that, they'll go out for him next week and they'll put an extra kind of 10% into everything. I was like, oh man, maybe they'll win, and now I'm like, no, they stink.
they remind me of a worse version of like the Cardinals last year, like losing all of the close games.
Yeah,
it's a very Lions trait in it, because obviously in Stafford's last season they lost a couple of games like that, and it's one of those things where certain teams are just going to be that particular way for the rest of the time. And I think, unfortunately for them, the Detroit Lions are just one of those lovable loser teams that they're just never going to get there, are they? Unless they have a massive change around, like starting with like the sort of the back office and stuff, it's just never going to change. Staying in the Lions division, we have a matchup of NFC North teams, with the Packers going up against the Chicago Bears.
This is what I found difficult. Like instant reaction, Packers, but I know the Bears have just they seem to have this disruptive element to them. But I'm going to settle the Packers eventually. But I wouldn't be shocked to be wrong on that one.
No, I don't disagree with you on that. We have all picked the Packers, but I think this is the most played game in the history of the NFL. So it was obviously when it was the 100th season a couple of years ago, instead of having the defending Super Bowl champions to open up the season, it was this game. And obviously with it being in Chicago, you'd maybe think that like there might come a little bit of extra spice with it, but we have all gone for the Packers to get the win. Next up, this was the one that was the most tricky for me. So I think it's pretty much nailed on for game of the week. It's the LA Chargers going to Baltimore to take on the Ravens.
I went with the Ravens, just that little couple of percent for the home game, but I have no idea on that one.
So
it's going to be fun, though.
We've all picked the Ravens, and I get the feeling that this season's slowly becoming back against the Chargers at your peril, because they've been involved in a couple of games now where it's been close, but they've just snuck it, and that game on Sunday was a bit ridiculous against the Browns. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's another shootout, really, with either one of the teams coming out on top. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings travelling to Carolina to take on the Panthers.
I'm going Panthers. They are my dark horse, like not like overall winners, but they're the kind of exceed expectations team this year.
That's our first 50-50 split there. So both myself and you have gone for the Panthers, whereas Andy and Matt have picked the Vikings on that one. Next up, we've got your Arizona Cardinals travelling to Cleveland to take on the Browns.
I mean, the Browns are not a shoddy team by any stretch, but I think the Cardinals are going to take that one.
We've all backed the Cardinals. Now, obviously, it's just a case of when are they going to get their first loss. But
not many undefeated teams through a season there.
No, I think if the Browns can get the running game going, then they'll pose more of a threat than most.
Yeah,
I think the biggest threat,
definitely malleable.
The biggest threat to the Cardinals' unbeaten season is the fact that the division they're in is an absolute bastard of a division. You got
It's your stereotypical any team can beat any team on any day of the week in that one. And
I think
we might have even called it in the pre-season show where that's a division where arguably maybe not the Seahawks now that Russell Wilson's gone down, but you could see all four of the teams getting 10 wins at least.
Healthy, any team can make the playoffs happily.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely the NFC team where you wouldn't. The NFC division where you wouldn't be surprised if two of the three wildcard spots come from that division. So
there was a point last year it was looking close. Then Cardinals went off a cliff. But
there was a gambling website that was offering 15-1 for 6 teams to come from the 2 West divisions, so the AFC West and the NFC West. And you kind of think, I was like, yeah, that's not bad actually. When you go Rams, Chargers, Chiefs, 49ers, and you're like, well, one of the other ones, Cardinals, Seahawks is probably going to make it the jump.
Yeah.
If
the Raiders can get it right, then they're arguably a decent enough team. So
a new coach could be huge for them. They've got the talent.
It's going to be a case of how long they leave it before they make the appointment, because obviously they've gone with the interim coach for now. But
it's so difficult, isn't it? Because you generally don't get a new football coach in the middle of the season. They just promote from within and hold on till the summer. The end of the season. Sorry, it'll be interesting to see where they go after that, because we know that they don't like spending money.
Except for stadiums. Kickbacks and government funding and all that.
Yeah.
Nah, the owner just went in and was like, "Give us 1,000 on Black 17."
So bad news, lads. No new stadium. We'll try again next month.
Speaking of the Raiders, that brings us to our next game, actually, where we have the Raiders going up against the Broncos.
I think the Broncos are going to bounce back. I think the Raiders are in a bit of a flap.
There's another 50-50 shot there. Both me and Andy have gone for the Raiders to get the win, whereas you two, you Matt and you James, have gone for the Broncos on that one. So 50-50 shot. Last of the Sunday evening games is the Cowboys travelling to New England to take on the Patriots.
I'm thinking Cowboys in that one.
No shock there. We have all taken the Cowboys. Then we've got Sunday Night Football is the decimated Seattle Seahawks going to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers.
I think Gino's going to do enough. I still reckon the Shy Talks will get it.
Really?
Ooh.
The Geno Smith Seahawks?
I think so. They got enough in the running game.
Travelling to Pittsburgh. Wow, you are a bold man, my friend.
I am. Well, he's not the biggest part, but Juju is out for the season. And I think
Is he done for the season?
Yeah, he's out for the season.
Yeah. I love the phrasing on the tweet about him that he's had season-ending surgery. The surgery was a success, as in it was successful in ending his season.
It don't matter with them anyway. They'll just use one of the other 7 or 8 fucking wide receivers they've got anyway. So I think I can't remember if it's in our league or in my other league, but I had Deontay Johnson, and obviously he had 1 reception for 50 yards and a touchdown. Don't think he had enough receptions on the fourth quarter.
We discussed this the other day. I've added it. I do it every year, and every year it annoys the hell out of me. I don't know why I do it. I pick a Steelers wide receiver for a fantasy team, and then you play them, they get nothing. You bench them, they score all the points. Then you put them back in your team, and then they score nothing for 3 weeks. And then when you eventually kind of take them out again, you're like, screw you, Mike Tomlin, you genius. And and then it's just the merry-go-round.
It is incredibly frustrating as a fantasy football player.
Yeah.
Alas, we round out the week with the Monday night football, or Tuesday morning football, as it's known in the UK, with the Super Bowl bound Buffalo Bills versus the Tennessee Titans.
Well, obviously, the Tennessee Henrys are got at least something going for them, but it's got to be the Bills. They got far too much for them.
That defense is something else, man. It's sick, as I believe the kids would have said at one point back in the day. Obviously, I'm not down with the kids anymore, so I can't really use that phrase. But yeah, there we go. Week 6 picks. Done.
Beautiful. So there we go. That is week 5 in the books. Week 6 in the book. Picks are in. Obviously, as I said before, the guest will get a combined pick, which would surely, with 2 guests here in person, should surely secure them a win to put them further ahead of me in the season. So, gentlemen, at this point in time, I will ask you any other business for this week.
Nothing from me. I think all the injuries and stuff were covered. Obviously, we've just covered the Juju being out for the season now. Obviously, we've mentioned it a couple of times during the podcast about the Raiders getting rid of John Gruden. He kind of fell on his own sword with the release of some emails that he'd sent a few years ago, where he was a bit racist.
He was a naughty boy. I haven't dared to look into what the emails what they entail. All I know is from the wonderful world of the internet. Apparently, they are horrific. So that's kind of why I've stayed clear of it, because
I've not seen any news agencies actually say the content just is exceptionally racist, exceptionally misogynistic.
Yeah.
So farewell, John. Don't let the door kick you on the arse.
The only thing I've seen in the New York Times was the homophobic kind of thing, and it was a barrage of the F word in the homophobic arena. But I think the thing for me is that it's bad. It's him using it. It's the fact that apparently there's 600 plus emails. Why has it taken 10 years for this to come out?
Without a time frame, Jesus.
2011, I'm sure they said it's 2011. Yeah, it's around the time of around the work stoppage and stuff like that.
I think so, yeah.
And it's just like, when you look at it, it's racial, it's homophobic, it's misogynistic, it's it's just a whole kind of like dark ages kind of attitude to things. But the worst thing,
he's basically run the gamut, and he basically any sort of anti that he can, he has been.
All the ists, all the isms.
But I think he was at a time when he was completely untouchable as a pundit, in terms of how he was revered. And now, ironically, he's found himself in the exact same position, untouchable. But I just think I think like someone said, I think now they've got Gruden. Now we need to go and find the enablers as well, because he won't be the only person with that attitude. There'll be other people within the NFL who've gone, either seen that email, laughed at that email, shared that email, agreed with that email, or or whatever he said to them, and no one's gone, you can't. That's not right. And he's had a very well paid job for ESPN up until 4 years ago, and now he's had a well paid job for 4 years, and it's absolute bullcrap that nobody knew about this before, because teams do their due diligence when they hire people. They must have known. And I just think,
it's not what they've done, it's what can we get away with.
Yeah.
And one thing I read that could be complete bollocks, but it's the only reason it's coming out now is because the Raiders want out of a very, very expensive contract.
Mm-hmm. It wouldn't surprise me.
Cynical about it.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me that that's part of it, because the thing is, you only have to piss off one person who knows about all your emails and have access to them to be like, there you go, do what you want with those, kind of thing. And it's just a sorry state, really.
It certainly is.
Bad times.
Outside of that, there was just one more thing in that the actual league itself had announced that they've narrowed it down to 3 German cities that have bid for the rights to a game going over there for the international series, starting from potentially as early as next year.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Munich was one. Just double check.
It'll be a shame if they don't go back to Frankfurt.
Say again, sorry?
It'll be a shame if they don't go back to Frankfurt.
Well,
But
straight
it's not Frankfurt
as it is, Dusseldorf, Frankfurt, and Munich are the 3 cities in question.
When did they go to Frankfurt?
Obviously, they were the NFL Europe teams, weren't they? Kind of.
Back in those days.
Yeah. So, like I say, it could be as early as next season, but they're planning to add an extra game to the international series. And apparently, the agreement that's come out was that each of the 32 teams has agreed to play at least one home game over the space of every 4 years. So, as it stands, the Packers are the only team who hasn't played in any of the international series games, be it over here or in Mexico. And obviously, of those teams, the Jags do one designated home game every season. So they might end up coming across as a road team, as well as doing a home game as well. So we should, in theory, see within the space of 4 years, every team should have been over at least once. So.
I feel like it's probably going to be cheaper to fly from the northeast to Germany than it is to get the train to London.
There we go.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Weekend jolly.
Right, gentlemen, all that leaves me is to thank our guests this week, Mr. Matthew Moore, and the friendliest giant in town, the JFG, Mr. James Forrest Gray. Thank you to my glamorous co-host, Mr. Paul Williams. Thank you to you for listening or indeed watching us talk about a sport that's played a long way away. Apart from, the weekend gone, weekend coming, Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, dear listener, stroke watcher. Catch us next week and find out if I have been on the ball and got us a guest. Thank you very much, and I'll see you boys later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So there you go. What do you think to that? Big thank you to Matt and James for coming on the podcast and letting us know what they think is going to go down in this week's games. Good luck to them as the collective guest. Let's see if we can get some points. Big thank you to you for listening or watching or whatever you're doing. But whatever you're doing, do click that subscribe button because it's a big help to us and the benefits are massive. You can also jump over to thecookiecast.com. check out what we've got going on there. It's a little website, but it does give social media links and an email link so you can get in touch with us. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.